I think I'll try. I wish I could be in a musical.
I don't think that note should be heard by human ears.
I think I'll try defying gravity.
Yes. It's great. It's beautiful.
How about you try?
No, thank you.
You have it in you.
No, thank you.
Did you want to sing while we were watching this movie?
I mouthed the songs.
Did you see that they
I
were
knew.
telling people not to sing?
Yeah, nobody wants to hear you over Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande.
I'm surprised nobody did. I felt it a little bit during Defying Gravity and Popular. People wanted to.
Oh, they wanted to, for
It was
sure.
like the little, oh. Anyway, we're about to get into our spoiler-free review of Wicked Part 1, which a lot of people didn't know that this was going to be split into 2 parts.
It is indeed split into 2 parts.
And it is a long movie, 2.5 hours.
Went by so fast.
It really did. And I am a latecomer to musicals, I would say. But when I look back on the history of me enjoying movies that have been really historic musicals, I like them. I think I like musicals that have a little bit of fantasy in them. I think when there's like realistic musicals, I don't like them. Like Mamma Mia, not really a fan of that one.
You like
Mamma Mia?
Hamilton. Hamilton's history. That's pretty realistic.
Yeah, but that music is so dynamic and so different. And the fact that they go the entire time,
Yeah.
that's an
It's
entirely
different.
different level. But I think when I like musicals, I think of like Willy Wonka, now Wicked, or even going back to the original Wizard of Oz, which is a musical, but there's a lot of fantasy elements to it.
Which, if you watch the original Wizard of Oz, kind of scary to watch as a child.
It is a dark movie. That whole history of that movie is really intense, of all the conditions that all those actors went through. The snow in the movie was asbestos. What they did to Julie Garland was insane.
And was it the Tin Man that, like, they used the paint that had something
Yeah, paint had
toxic
lead in it.
Yeah,
He was in the
lead paint.
hospital. It got in his eye. He had an eye infection. The lion, they used real like lion fur on him. Everybody got sick. Everybody had health issues. People were burned on the set. But when you watch that movie back, it's like, oh, it's a good movie. I think Wizard of Oz is probably the most significant movie in history.
And then I gave you a little factoid you didn't know. You did not know that Liza Minnelli is Judy Garland's daughter.
I did not know that.
There you go.
There are a lot of things that happened in Wizard of Oz that have been so influential throughout film, even just in life. Like the reason witches are green and depicted the way they are is because of the Wizard of Oz. It's little things like that, the hero journey of that movie. And then this is the prequel to that, but it's actually also based on a book, but the book didn't come out till like 95.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a prequel.
It's not a how's it not a prequel? The movie starts.
I guess it's a prequel, but like the book isn't considered a prequel. Like the original book is...
It's like a retelling, I guess?
Yes.
I saw it as a prequel because the way this movie opens up, you see Dorothy, the Tin Man, all the cast going down the road. It starts at the end of that movie saying that the witch is dead, and then it's all a big flashback. So to me, it felt like a prequel. But I guess it's a reimagining of...
I already forget that you see them at the beginning of the
Yeah,
movie.
very briefly, which I think people were upset whenever that trailer first dropped, and there was a little glimpse of them because they were saying, no, they're not involved in this story. But I think, like...
But they are.
I feel like they're building towards something else after watching this.
I think people... So I watched a TikTok that gave like a full breakdown because I was like, it's been around for 20 years. Like I don't consider it a spoiler. Like
Yeah, which let's say at the beginning of this that neither of us have seen the musical before this.
we haven't. I want to.
So I knew nothing about the story. You knew from watching TikTok.
I want to go see it in New York before the end of February because I'm a very big fan of Mary-Kate Morrissey, who is currently playing Elphaba. So I would like to go. I'm going to try to make that happen. So no, haven't seen the musical. Didn't know how it really ties in. So I watched a TikTok that breaks it down because I was like, it's not a spoiler. It's been around forever. Like I want to know going into the movie. And it didn't ruin the movie for me. Like it made me more excited for part 2. But yeah, so I'll just say that it does tie in. It's not a spoiler. It's been around for years. Like,
Yeah.
The musical premiered in 2003.
I feel like it's kind of like going into last year Willy Wonka. Like we kind of knew the story of Willy Wonka, even though that was a prequel to the story. You kind of know what is going to happen. Even from watching the trailer, they show so much at the end of the movie in the trailer that even though I had no idea what was going on, what was going to happen in the story, I kind of had an idea because I saw what was happening at the end of the trailer. Anyway, the movie is essentially the origin story of the Wicked Witch of the West.
And Glinda the Good Witch.
And it's how they met in school. I love that this movie had a really fun, quirky vibe to it, which I guess is what I wasn't expecting. When it came to Ariana Grande's performance, I absolutely loved it.
Incredible.
She is so good in that role as being this bubbly, cartoonish character that it reminded me a lot of her Salmon Cat character.
Yeah, I thought she was phenomenal in it. Like I think she was such a good choice.
And I think the singing is just like, who else could you get that's a pop star that's relevant right now to be able to sing at this level? Because you have to sing at such a high level to do these songs.
Yeah, and it's like she's one of the best singers.
And out of anybody to come out of Nickelodeon, probably has the best career of all time.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking.
Somebody who's had as equal success in film after Nickelodeon and music after. Like, just her music career alone is huge. I guess her post-acting career, this is probably her biggest thing to date.
Yeah, what else has she been in? I'm blanking.
I feel like this is it. Maybe this is her biggest role so far.
I think this is her biggest role.
But I think, who was your favorite character out of the entire movie?
Easily Elphaba. Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba was truly stunning. Like, she just is so good.
The entire time I was just thinking how much of a pain that green makeup had to be.
Oh,
to
yeah.
go into full green makeup every single day on set, the more and more I see about how much of a struggle it is for different actors to get into different costumes, that has to be pretty taxing to have your entire body green.
Well, and she said it would take, like, the days where she just had to do, like, face and hands were long, and then the days where they had to do, like, full body even longer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're talking hours just to get into the makeup.
That just messes with your brain, because not only is it a taxing process to get into costume, but then you have to be on set for an extended period of time to make that just effort worth it.
I mean, and then they sang live. They did the stunts while singing live. Like, it's incredible. And even if you find yourself thinking, like, I'm not a musical person, I highly recommend seeing it. Like, honestly, even when they announced they were making a movie, I was kind of like, okay.
Same. And I liked it upon the first trailer. And then the more we kept seeing the trailer, we're like, I don't know if this is going to be good.
Well, I was like, I just want to see the movie. I'm sick of seeing trailers. Blown away. I already want to see it again.
The reason I found myself really enjoying it coming from a place of being, I could go either way on musicals, but I think it was the fact that there was a good story at the core of it. Like, it went back to actual storytelling and acting, and the singing parts were big and grand, but it wasn't really the main focus point, which is, I think, what I attach myself to. And also the fact that they had incredible set design, which I think is really what I look for in a movie like this, because in some of the other Wizard of Oz movies, they have done all the spin-offs and prequels they've done in between the original and now. Sometimes they just CGI all the backgrounds. It feels very lifeless, and it feels like just a bunch of actors in a big empty studio. But here, I could feel the sets, and whenever they're running around and dancing and jumping off of things and going from one set to another in one song, it just felt like the entire production was alive. And that is what I really enjoyed about it, because it was a pleasure for my ears and my eyes, because there was so much to focus on. And like you said earlier, those 2.5 hours really go by fast, which going into this, we were thinking, that's a pretty long runtime.
Honestly, I wanted more.
Yeah, and it got to that point where in a long movie, I always have to make this decision, am I going to go pee or not? Because usually it's like an hour in. If I know I have 40 minutes left in a normal movie, I'm like, okay, I can make it. But in this one, there was a point where it was like at that 2-hour mark, I'm like, do I go pee or not? Some people did go pee.
I only went once.
I didn't go at all.
And I think I missed a decent time. Like, I wasn't, or didn't miss anything important. Like, picked a good time to go.
I'd say if you're debating it, if there's a slow song happening, you're probably good to go pee.
Yeah.
And what I also loved about opening weekend was the fact that the entire movie theater was full. The parking lot was to the brim. That never happened. I can't remember the last time the parking lot alone was this full.
Everyone was wearing their, like, Wicked merch. People were paying $38 for the combo with the Glenda cup, and I was like, cinema is alive right now.
You got me the pin, which I wanted the pin.
I did get you the Elphaba pin.
I like collecting those. And in the theater, I feel that was as close to like a sellout theater we've been in a while. And it was surprising to me how respectful the crowd was throughout the entire thing, when there was that burning passion of people wanting to sing.
I didn't hear anyone singing. I heard a couple kids a few times, like younger kids being like, what happened? But like, you can tell it's a kid. I'm not going to be mad. Like, and they just couldn't understand, and they needed their parents to tell them. Like, that wasn't a big deal. But yeah, I feel like everyone was pretty respectful. I did see that some theaters are going to do sing-alongs on like Christmas.
I bet that is fun. But you got to see it the first time, just normal.
I'd go to that.
And then you have the sing-along version.
But then there's always going to be that one person with like a really good voice who's like singing Defying Gravity, and everyone else is like, okay, we all came here to be terrible. Like,
trying to get discovered in this movie theater.
Yeah.
The thing I always enjoy about Wizard of Oz movies is there's always this hidden layer of darkness. And if you look at the actual theme of this movie, the overall message of this movie, there is kind of this underlying, it gets dark a little bit.
Wicked book is banned in like 32 counties, which I won't get started on my opinion on book bans.
Counties or countries?
Counties.
Oh, counties?
In the U.S., yeah.
Oh, dang.
Because it's pretty dark and like raunchy is, I guess, a good word for it. But yeah, I've heard people are being like, even if you liked the musical, I don't know if the book is for you.
And I don't know that, do you think that this is a kid's, it's like a family movie, but it's not, I feel like overall the message isn't completely family friendly because it does have some dark themes that if you were just like a 5-year-old going to see this.
I don't think a 5-year-old's going to pick up on the dark themes. I think they're going to see the pretty costumes and the singing, and then I don't think they'll feel scared. Part 2 could be different.
Yeah, I could feel it going a different way in part 2 because of the rise in action towards the end of this. And I think the only thing I didn't enjoy about it is the fact that it is split into 2, because I always feel like you kind of get left off on like, oh, it's just getting good and now it's over and we have to wait another year for the next part to come out.
At least it's only a year.
That's true, but I worry a lot of movies that end up getting split into 2, it gets delayed and it doesn't come out in a year. It comes out in a year and a half and then sometimes 2 years. So,
I'm holding out hope that it'll be a year.
And how excited are you now for part 2? We don't want to give away where this movie leaves off, but are you at a 10 to go into the next one or like a total 10?
Total 10. I saw a Letterboxd review on, somebody posted it on Twitter and they were like, I'm staying in my seat till the next one. The theater employees are scared and asked me to leave, but I'm seated till November 2025. And I was like, honestly, I get it.
I mean, yeah, think about this one being 2.5. I have to imagine the next one is going to be a 2.5-hour movie as well. That's 5 hours of Wicked right there.
But I do want to see it on Broadway before. So we got a year. We need to make that happen.
I am now going to completely leave out of my vocabulary that I am not a musical person. I think I like
a good
musicals.
musical.
Good musicals. But
Joker 2?
Yeah.
I'm not a musical person when it comes to that, but a good musical that is, here's the thing. It's a Broadway musical, and it is
top notch.
21 years running. Like, that clearly says something about it. Like, Joker 2, like, wasn't adapted from anything. It just was.
Yeah, I think at that point, you're just saying, I like good movies versus I like bad movies. Like, the genre doesn't have to really matter anymore. If a movie is done well, it doesn't matter the genre. It is really hard not to like a well put together, a well made movie.
Listen, I even liked Mean Girls musical at the beginning of the year.
I like that too. It's a little underrated.
I still walk around being like, my name is Regina George.
And the thing about this one that it didn't stray away from in the promotion is hiding the fact that it's a musical. You can't hide the fact that this movie is a musical, but every other movie kind of does the bait and switch. Mean Girls, a lot of people went into that.
Oh yeah, they had no clue.
It was just a remake. Joker, same thing. There wasn't much singing in the trailer.
There wasn't any hiding. I did see a TikTok of these 3 girls that took their boyfriends and their boyfriends didn't know it was a musical. And I'm like, that's just on them.
Yeah, that's just not knowing anything about pop culture or anything.
You also fully have Wicked on the brain because we were grocery shopping earlier and they had a display, which I do think they did it on purpose, but it was like pink bottles of champagne and green. And you were like, is that display giving Wicked?
Pink and green. Hey, now I see it all the time.
I was like, honestly, it is.
In the studio now, I have a green light.
It is. It's giving Wicked.
For Wicked Part 1, what would you rate it?
5 out of 5 flying monkeys.
I would go a strong 4.5 out of 5 magic wands or bubbles. I'll go bubbles. I like the bubble. And again, the only reason I give it less than a 5 is because it's split off into 2 and I wanted more. So there you go. We are now both hardcore Wicked stans.
That we are.
We're buying tickets for Part 2 right now.